Welcome to today's episode of Decentralize TV on Brighteon.com. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Brighteon, the free speech video network. And our show, which features co-host Todd Pittner, is called Decentralize TV. Todd and our guest will join us here in just a second. Our guest today is Ernesto Contreras. He is the head of growth for the project called Dash. Dash is it's a well-known cryptocurrency that's been around for many years. And we're about to find out what's special about Dash, thanks to Ernesto. So welcome, gentlemen, both of you, to the show. It's great to have you on today.
Hola.
Hi, guys. How are you? It's a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate the Spanish pronunciation of my name.
Yes.
It's great to be here.
You are very welcome here. Yeah, thank you for joining us. And it always bothers me when Americans do the really kind of lazy American pronunciation of Spanish names. So I always try to give it a little bit more effort. But hey, welcome, Todd. Also, great to have you back.
Thank you.
We're all here today. So look, the website is dash.org. That's dash.org. And the slogan here is your money, your way. And now just before we turn it over to Ernesto here, just to say, we talk a lot about privacy coins here on this show. Dash is not actually technically what we would consider to be a privacy coin, but some people think it's a privacy coin. But it's kind of a misunderstanding. So Ernesto, can you kind of start off and tell us about Dash, what it is and what it isn't? We'll start there.
Yeah, well, once again, thank you for taking the time and the friendliness. So Dash is short for digital cash. Dash is a payments cryptocurrency that is a fork of Bitcoin. Dash was launched on the 18th of January of 2014 by Evan Duffield and a group of developers that saw that back in the day Bitcoin was great, but was lacking some of the characteristics of money, of cash. When you pay with cash to someone, that person or whoever gets the bill doesn't know that this bill came from Todd, and Todd has 100 other bills in his wallet. So in order to solve for that, Dash started having some privacy features at that point, and Dash in that moment started being called Xcoin, and then it was rebranded as Darkcoin a few months later, and then in 2015 it changed to Dash. That privacy feature that Dash has from those days is basically CoinJoin, which is a similar or the same function that Bitcoin has right now with different wallets, but it was implemented at the wallet level.
I see.
So back from those 2014, 2015, 2016 days, I believe Dash was the only coin that had CoinJoin at the core wallet, and that gave the tag of a privacy coin to Dash from those days. And if you Google, it's still out there, and some funny enough, or I don't know if it's funny, but some regulators still take Google as their only search tool.
And that is funny.
Yeah. So, but we have continued to work on the digital cash angle. That's deeply ingrained into the DNA of Dash Core Group, which is the organization that I work for, and all of the Dash network. We always try to bring more freedom by bringing more use cases, making it easier for people to live on their digital cash, and by integrating into as many and many merchants and providers that we can. So Dash is digital cash.
Well, I have so many questions for you. I know Todd does too, but so one of my questions is Dash better known in Central and South America? Is that really where its core audience is? Because I've watched a lot of your videos, and you've talked about Venezuela, you've talked about Brazil and Mexico and use cases, and it's amazing to me that in many ways the people of Central and South American countries actually recognize the utility of this faster than do North Americans.
Yeah, well, I joined the Dash team back in 2018. So they had already, walked a few steps. And back when I joined, we were having these conversations of, let's crypto is not everything for everyone. So let's break it down and let's see where we can have some strategic growth. And back in that moment, we saw that there were five segments of potential growth, and they were the people that were buying cannabis. The cannabis industry is legal in many places, but even though it's legal, they don't have access to bank or to banking
Okay.
systems.
Right.
So the other option was, of course, crypto trading. The other option was remittances, and the other vertical was online sports and gambling, and the last vertical was places where the financial system is not working properly in the strict definition of high inflation and all of that. Because when I say that today, many of my American friends are like, well, it's us. But what we meant in that moment was, hyperinflation, banking system collapsing, and so on. So we started working with these five, and we called it five hypotheses of growth. And then, because you only have so many resources, there's only so many people. And once we started going there, one of the avenues that gave a lot more traction was the financial troubled economies with Venezuela at its head, because unlike what you said, for example, the US, a lot of people in Venezuela were getting paid in the local bolivars, and then their purchase capacity was being decimated, by half every week. So in those places, we had a lot more integrations and a lot more usage. And that's one of the reasons why you hear that of all the things we did, for example, in LATAM. Back in 2018, as far as I know, we were the first crypto to be accepted at a whole complete restaurant. Church's Chicken integrated Dash in 2018. In Venezuela, we also had integrations in supermarkets and many more. But what people don't know is that even though that got a lot of press and a lot of attention, we've continued growing. And for example, I think it was 2 years ago, we launched an app in the US that allowed for people to spend Dash in more than 150,000 places. And, we've continued with this strategy of where can we find realistic use cases that will stick and people will want to come back. Funny enough, and I'll close with this part. For example, the legal cannabis industry, that opportunity never took off because banks were forcing the legal cannabis entrepreneurs to not take cryptocurrency because that was considered high risk. So banks were telling them, hey, you're an ultra high risk if you're doing legal cannabis and then crypto. So, we see that governments are always trying to tell people what to do. And, we got to adapt to that and figure out how we can bring more freedom.
Wow. Okay, Todd, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I always like to kind of walk before we run, just for the sake of people who, might be new to crypto. And I like this that I read. It's Dash, which is near instantaneous crypto transactions. You can transact with Dash nearly instantly, just as you would in the real world at the point of sale. And so a quick summary here. Dash is a cryptocurrency that is optimized for payments and focuses on usability. Dash introduced several innovations that improve scalability, speed, reliability, cost effectiveness, and user experience compared with other digital currencies. The Dash network is also the longest running decentralized autonomous organization, or we would say DAO, utilizing built-in governance to allocate network resources to organize and support the network, which I really want to dive into that too. But it seems to me like the utility of Dash that you guys have focused on has been at the point of sale, which fascinates me. Can you unpack that a little bit? Tell us where you've been successful with that. And say church, go ahead.
Well, and let me add to your question, Todd. That's a great question. Yeah. But how does Dash achieve this? Is it a really fast block time? How does it require fewer confirmations to be considered good? How does it achieve the very rapid transaction capability that works at point of sale? You got to have that at point of sale.
Yeah. Well, as I said, and thank you for bringing that up. That was a very good description of Dash. We've been optimizing for being digital cash since day one, even before it was called Dash. So Dash transactions take about a second and a half.
Mm.
Usually when I tell you, "Hey Todd, I paid you," before I finish, usually you see the Dash in your wallet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and the cost is about a 20th of a penny.
Mm.
Wow.
So the way this works is that we're a fork of Bitcoin, but Dash, and I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as possible. Dash has a two-layer system. There's the miners, and they mine blocks every 2.5 minutes, and then there's another layer called masternodes. If you
Mm.
want to run a masternode, which is in many ways similar to a regular node, except that you got to have 1,000 Dash collateral and you provide service to the network. One of the services is that whenever a transaction is broadcasted, instead of having to wait for confirmation from all of the network, you get a confirmation from a subset of these masternodes.
Oh, wow.
And this
Mm.
happens in a much faster way. And the technology is called instant send. So, going a little bit more technical, when you
Hmm.
see a Bitcoin transaction, in the code, the transaction is signed with TX as transaction. It has a bunch of things, the amount, the wallet, and then TX. In Dash, it is signed with IS, which means instant send. And whenever the network reads that IS message, it tells the receiving part, hey, this transaction is signed for instant send, therefore you can credit it immediately.
Then are
And
those master nodes kind of randomly rotated or something to achieve?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. There's a subset of about, I think it's 4,300 master nodes all around the world. And then there's something called, I'm drawing a blank now, but it's a quorum that's a subset of these guys, and that's rotated every whatever. And then that quorum is the one that's randomly selected to validate the transactions for a period of time. So even if you and I thought we were bad actors and we wanted to trick the system, number
Hmm.
one, we wouldn't know when it is our turn to be selected. And then we would have to coordinate with a big enough number of other masternodes that we might not know who they are in order to trick the system. So
Wow.
back to what this means is that there are a bunch of exchanges that have taken the instant send approach. And for example, when you send Dash to Whitebit, which is an exchange in Ukraine, you can be credited in a few seconds. When you send Dash to Kraken, they detect your Dash in a few seconds and you can see it there.
Hmm.
So there's a bunch of exchanges that have taken the instant send approach, and other exchanges are a little bit more cautious and they wait for one confirmation, which is still not bad because you can send your Dash to Coinbase or to Binance, for example, and within 2.5 or 5 minutes you can have it credited. We see a lot of usage for traders when prices of cryptos go crazy
Oh, yeah.
because you have a bunch of Dash, for example, in your wallet, and you can take it out of your cold wallet and send it to an exchange and buy Bitcoin or sell it.
Well,
So
that's a really important point. I've been using swap services like Simple Swap, to swap. At first, I was swapping Bitcoin for other altcoins, and is this is horribly slow. So then I switched over to using Litecoin, which was a lot faster. And I didn't know that Dash was supported by Kraken. By the way, that's great to know. But I wonder what exchanges exist between Dash and other altcoins, because if it's this much faster, you're right, it makes all the difference.
yeah, there's about 267 exchanges globally that are accepting Dash. You can go to dash.org and see the full list, but from from the major names, we have Coinbase, we have Binance, you have Bitfinex, you have almost all the major exchanges in local geographies. And some of the, I know for a fact there's a exchange called Change Now they implemented instant send. So what happens is when you send Dash to change now, they detect it faster. And then the other part is depending on the other coin. So
Correct.
for
Yeah.
example, if you're changing Dash for Bitcoin and they do 6 confirmations, you'll still have to wait, your 60 minutes for the 6 Bitcoin confirmations.
Right.
But at least we're solving one of the parts. And going to Mike's, to Todd's question about the point of sale, what this means is that whenever a merchant or a website decides to accept Dash and they do it through a system that does not force for unnecessary confirmations, you can get the money right away. I'll send you in a minute or after we finish a link of me paying in one of the supermarkets that I mentioned in Venezuela. And you can see that, even though they integrated Dash into their cashier system, it takes about 10, 15 seconds for them to confirm the crypto transaction directly at their checkout store.
Wow.
So we have already people in the real world using these things. And this was, before El Salvador became popular for implementing Bitcoin. And, we've got a few years of experience doing this. And it's great to show people that you can have options outside of the regular, slow, and expensive banking system.
Todd, I love this because I love use cases, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm loving what I'm hearing so far. What's your take so far?
So I read somewhere when I was doing my research, we're not only focused on fast, low-cost, scalable payments, but also on spreading seeds and seeing which one grows. I'd love for you to talk about that, Ernesto, because there are two really important problems in crypto, I think. Governance and then funding. And it seems like you guys have what is called, correct me if I'm wrong, decentralized governance by blockchain. And it's really kind of revolutionized how a decentralized community can effectively, fairly, and efficiently fund its own development. Do I have that right?
Yeah. One, and it makes me so proud to be part of Dash, because we've been pushing the innovation and figuring out, both the things that work and the things that do not work within these new systems. And everything that you refer to, Todd, is talking about the DAO. So back when masternodes were implemented, the same team that implemented this said, well, what else can we do with this besides fast confirmations? Well, these masternodes can vote yes or no on certain projects that are put in front of them. So what happens is, instead of, or unlike crypto projects where 100% of the mining rewards go to the miner, it all started with that saying, let's allocate 10% of the treasury of the mining reward to something called a treasury. And let's have these thousands of masternodes vote every month for whether they think a certain project will help scale Dash or not. And those are the seeds that I'm referring to. If you go to dashcentral.org, you will see that right now there's about 15 active proposals, and anyone around the world can go there and say, hey, I have this decentralized TV show and I want to talk about Dash. Would you sponsor it? And then people will ask you questions. People will, check for your references. And then if the Dash network believes that there is value on promoting itself on decentralized TV, then they will vote yes. If they believe that it is not, or it is not at this moment, they will vote no. And then at the end of the month, there's something called a super block. Remember that I mentioned 10%? It's a little bit more because it's changed in percentages, but let's say 10% gets distributed at the end of that month. And let's say that 10% this month is going to be about 2,600 Dash. If you ask for 50 Dash, then 50 of those 2,661 that will be minted will go to the wallet that you presented when you put forward your process.
Wow.
So that's a way of spreading seeds. And in the years of operation, Dash has had teams independently and without asking for anyone's permission except the vote. Dash has had teams in Colombia, in Thailand, of course, in the US, in the UK. Dash has funded exchanges to pay for the exchanging of the work, wallets, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, Dash Core Group is funded every month by this system.
See, I love this system, and I'm really glad you brought that up, Todd. And thank you, Ernesto, for that explanation. And the fact that you're getting so much traction with point of sale retailers, that really strikes home with me, because I run a very large certified organic lab tested food and nutrition retailer. And we want to be able to pay our upstream supply chain raw materials providers in crypto. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do over time is to convert those people, like convert a supply chain, or as much as I can, into crypto. And you can appreciate this, Ernesto, because the speed of Dash means that if I'm buying, let's say, 10,000 kilos of quinoa from a supplier, if I pay by a credit card or a check, they have to wait. They have to wait to see if the fiat currency is ever going to be reversed or if it's fraud or whatever. If I pay in Dash, man, in 2 seconds, they know it's done, it's irreversible, it's immutable, they can ship the quinoa, and commerce moves faster for the whole supply chain. So this is something near and dear to me. So that's why I appreciate you hearing this. Your comments on that, Ernesto?
Yeah, I did like this because usually it takes, 3 business days?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, for the fast ones.
Sometimes they'll hold them for weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah, I always remember, a few years ago, I started in China, and I was sometimes receiving money from my home country, Venezuela. And once my money got lost. And, I started going to the bank with a Chinese friend, of course, to help me out. And the way the money flowed back in that time, it was the Venezuelan bank was sending a wire to a Panamanian entity to a European entity, European entity to a branch in Beijing, and Beijing would then distribute to Shanghai. And what happened is that in one of these stops, a number didn't match, so it got reversed. And then when I went to my Chinese account, they were like, no, there's no money here. And when I called the Venezuelan guys, they were like, no, there's no money here.
Right.
So I this is, of course, an extreme example, but this is how the legacy banking system is set up. And we've been working to try to solve this problem for years. And, we've found a couple of key insights. And number one, you'll be successful trying to, I don't know if it's evangelize or to convince people, if you can solve a problem for them. We were very successful at getting some things in Venezuela because in 2018, their point of sale system was completely not working. Literally, you would go to a Subway store and they wouldn't have a way to take your money. So they were losing sales, and we came with this thing. We're like, hey, take Dash. And they're like, yeah, give me that. So number one, if you solve that. And then number two, there are other friction points, like, what's the fee to go in and go out? How can I avoid volatility? I would lie to you if I didn't say that, that's a big deterrent because, especially the cryptos that are not Bitcoin, when we go, everyone loves upside volatility. Hey, you paid me $10. Now I got 12. I love it. Mm-hmm. But the other way deters people. So if you put in place solutions for those things, number one, what is the problem? You're getting the money fast. Number two, making sure you're not losing value on the cash in, cash out, and then the volatility. Then you can start getting some good tractions, and I'm sure your suppliers will appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key. Todd, you want to jump in? Looked like you wanted to say something on that.
Well, you were talking about volatility, and I did have one question related to that. Just if you could educate me a little bit. I took a look at the chart, all-time chart, and it's kind of crazy. It looked like, it started out of the blocks and just shot up to, like, I think I have this right, $1,234. And then it just came down, and I think it hit like $41 and then went back up to 409. And I think it's trading around 34.61. Can you explain that kind of volatility? Because when somebody takes a look at that with a skeptical eye, that just looks like an initial pump and dump.
Well, but FTX, I gotta add the FTX factor. Like every altcoin chart looks kind of similar since FTX, actually.
Well, this goes back to the year to 2014. Though,
okay, right. But yeah, go ahead, Ernesto.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm not throwing shade on it. I'm just that's one of the things when you I wasn't even going to bring it up, but when you talk about volatility, I think it's fair to bring it up.
I opened myself to it. So before joining Dash, I was working at an exchange. It's there now. I'm very happy to say they're the largest exchange in Latam. They're Bitso in Mexico. And you know, back in those days, I remember asking the CEO at the day, hey, you know, why did Bitcoin or Ether, you know, jump or decrease in price today? And his answer was, initially, I thought he was being, you know, a little bit rude to me. But then I understood, well, more people selling than buying, more people buying than selling. So what you see, and I saw it from back in 2016 days, is that, you know, price does what it does. What I do tell you is that I've seen with Dash and other altcoins that the way their token economics are set up allows for them to like react stronger or softer to the moves of the overall market. And, you know, everything is linked to Bitcoin. And what I've seen with Dash is that this masternode system, because it locks up a lot of the floating amount of coins, I think, this is my personal opinion, makes the Dash price more susceptible to strong ups and strong downs.
That makes sense. Yeah, because there are fewer remaining coins to buffer fluctuations.
So what I've seen, and I've been living this chart literally since 2018. So I've seen that, you know, sometimes when the market is either with a bad sentiment or a good sentiment, and something happens within Dash, the price shoots up or the price goes down stronger. For example, recently, when the government started attacking, the government of the US started, you know, mentioning coins, we were one of the coins mentioned, and that brought us down heavily.
Right.
And, you know, so my response to this is, and I've learned to, you know, give a very honest and careful response to merchants and people that are using this, because if you're taking crypto as a way of payment, you're literally getting your wages and the food on your table through this method. So what I say is, hey, this is a great method to get paid immediately. You have to put in place solutions or checkpoints to mitigate volatility, because it can hurt you, you know, or it can help you, but you don't want to, you know, go to gamble with your paycheck.
Can I add, I want to add a comment about volatility also to answer your point there, Todd. As we are a merchant, and of course we accept payment in dollars, and nobody talks about the volatility of accepting payments in dollars, but I do, because I know that every month those dollars are losing purchasing power. And of course the government misleads us with their fake inflation statistics, as all governments do. But you can go out to a restaurant or the grocery store and you can see, hey, I'm losing maybe 1% a month, or maybe at some point up to 2% per month in the United States right now. So as a merchant, I would rather accept something like Dash, and knowing that, okay, I might do a batch conversion into something else every day or 2 days or 3 days or something. I probably won't even go into fiat, but I might convert it to a stable coin or something, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm taking dollars, I have a 100% chance of losing purchasing power in those dollars. In fact, I want to get rid of the dollars faster than I want to get rid of crypto, frankly.
Yeah. And something that it's very interesting that you say this way, Mike. This is one of the findings and the education points we have been discussing with merchants when they're taking crypto outside of the US, because what we see is we tell them, hey, Now you have, let's say, your Argentinian pesos, you have dollars, and you have another freedom tool that is crypto. And within crypto, you can, hedge in different ways. So, this Dash thing can go up stronger, but it can also go down. And what I've seen CFOs do is that initially they're like, no, 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 take this crypto and immediately convert it to dollars, for example. And then as they start getting used to this new system, they're like, okay, I'll keep, whatever, a small percentage of that in crypto alone, maybe Bitcoin or maybe the other. And then they start seeing that that's another tool in their toolbox.
Right.
So once you're educated, and just like you mentioned, well, maybe, I know I'm losing whatever percent in dollars. I'm in the US, what other options I have? And that's the beauty of this internet of money. It gives you more options.
And I'll turn it back over to you, Todd. I'm sorry to keep interjecting here, but think about it. As the US prints more trillions of dollars, the inflation's only, the actual real inflation, or let's say the devaluation of the dollar, will only increase. I think this changes the equation in the minds of many people, just like what happened in Venezuela. As the local currency began to become increasingly useless over accelerating time, more and more people needed something that was more stable and exchangeable. I think the same thing is going to happen in the US. We are now at $32 trillion in debt. The Fed is about to probably do another interest rate raise, and the money printing is causing the inflation that the Fed is trying to fight by raising interest rates, which is contracting the economy. So the economy's getting hit hard, but the money's still becoming increasingly worthless. Todd, what are your thoughts on all those dynamics?
Well, what I'm interested in, I think about this, and because we live in America and we just really don't feel it, right? It's like, I remember going on a cruise a long, long time ago when Venezuela was very, very wealthy. And I was admiring this family that it was just like there was this patriarch who had just like 20 family members there. And they were talking about Venezuela. And then it was like overnight, it turned upside down. And Ernesto, I know that you lived that, your family lived that. Would you mind just giving us a little bit of insight? Because Mike, when you say 32 trillion, and I think they printed a trillion last month, something like that. Yeah. It's like, at what is the tipping point to where we start going all Venezuela? You know what I'm saying? So what do we look for? What could trigger that, and how fast can it happen? And what are the consequences once it does?
Yeah, well, number one, I really hope it never goes that way, because it's way beyond numbers. It destroys lives. It destroys future. It creates, just to give you a reference, Venezuela was about 26 million inhabitants back in 2010, 2011, and 7 million of us migrated one way or another. So that's almost a third. So, and many with many horrible ways from that wealthy place that you mentioned. Yeah. To give you a reference of what hyperinflation means, back in 2018, 2019, Venezuela had, I think, a 1,000,000% inflation. And what that means is I was there for a Dash conference, and I wanted to bring some chocolates to my family and friends in Mexico. And I bought a bag of a very nice chocolate called Toronto, like the Canadian city. And that same bag of Torontos in the same place, at the same shelf, from one Friday to the next Wednesday, costed more than double. So I paid, let's say, 100 bolivars on Friday. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to buy another bag. And I paid 220 bolivars on, I think, 3 days later. So that's what 1,000,000% inflation looks like. Prices double or more every week.
But the good news is everybody's wages kept up with it, right?
Yeah, that just destroys your eating capabilities, because what happens is almost everyone, makes their income in the local currency, and there's no way you can keep up with it. It's impossible for me to remember the numbers, but let's say a doctor's wage was 50 bolivars, and then things start doubling every week. And then within a couple of months of that monster inflation, you cannot even buy a bag of these chocolates that I'm talking about. And then what brings to that point, which is your question, Todd, it's a series of wrong decisions by the central bank and the government. And there's many flavors of that, and many places of the world have lived similar situations, but they all have a few things in common. Number one, a lot of printing of money. Mm-hmm. Number two, price controls. Mm-hmm. Number three, quota of the industries, and then corruption and other things. But these are the three that most resonate with me. And when my wife is Ukrainian, and when I speak to her mom about what happened back in the Soviet Union days, they apply the same formula. When I read about the failing Germany back before World War II, they also apply the same formula. So it's you print more, the government prints more money so they can pay the doctors and say, hey, we increase your salary to 75, and then they go and they force the private entities to sell something at a certain price, and therefore private entity stops producing that, and then when they bring it from another place, they must always keep up to the inflation. So it's like, I don't remember the exact name in English, but there's like a steam cooker, that's the name, where you apply pressure, pressure, and then the way it liberates, it's just by putting the prices up in the roof.
In that mix, and kind of what you mentioned there, I saw this when I lived in Ecuador too, that anytime you have price controls, you get tyranny, because then the government has to enforce price controls and they have to enforce rationing or limitations. So, for example, when I lived in Ecuador, the government was subsidizing gasoline so that the locals wouldn't rise up and riot because of unaffordable gas, right? Mm-hmm. Well, but then gasoline was a lot more expensive in, let's say, Colombia or Peru or other places. So a lot of people would try to load up on gasoline and they would export it. They had a black market. So then they had police SWAT teams cracking down on gasoline smugglers. And then I was going to a gas station to fill up with gasoline in a container one day for my generator because the power grid went down a lot, which will come to America too, by the way, probably soon. And the gas station attendant was like, no, you can't do that. That's illegal. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Oh, you have to have a permit to put gas in a container. And they explained to me, because of the gas smuggling, because of the price controls and the subsidies, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't get just a container of gas here. But it's a spiral. It's a spiral.
Yeah. What you described happened in Venezuela as well. So it's like I told you, it's a series of things. A lot of smart politicians say, oh, this time it's going to work. And then they apply the same formula and it's the same result. And what you said, it's all added into the mix of the big corruption, because then maybe you pay the policeman or you pay this other guy at the gas station and they'll let you fill up the thing.
Yeah, we always paid the policeman. Yes, we did.
And what you saw in Venezuela in particular is that a lot of the smuggling of gas, which exactly what you described was happening in Venezuela until about a year ago, a lot of the smuggling of the gasoline to Colombia and to these other places was done by government-related people.
Yes.
So, you don't let this guy, Mike, fill up his thing for his house, but then some general guard is taking thousands and thousands of liters to Colombia, because I'll share with this data because there's so much we can talk about this. At one point, the most profitable business, legal or illegal, in the world was taking gasoline from Venezuela to Colombia.
You're kidding me.
More profitable than selling cocaine or anything else.
Wow.
Because literally a full truck of gasoline costed less than $1. And all you needed to do was pass it to the other side of the river. Right. And then it would be, $10,000, $100. I don't know the amount, but it was more profitable than any other venture in the world, including weapons,
Jeez.
including everything. And of course, when you start seeing Bitcoin and crypto, you see that everything in life is about incentives. So you incentivize that, and then people are going to do it.
Oh no, there was a big river, and they had rigged up ropes, and they were swinging containers of gasoline across the river, and then the people on the other side would catch it, and that's how that smuggling route actually took place. It's pretty wild. But this is why Dash and projects that we're talking about here are so important, because when you have an honest ledger, you don't have to deal with all the money printing or necessarily the price controls, and you actually have something that people know that no government can just artificially create $1 trillion entries on the Dash blockchain, for example, or the Bitcoin blockchain. And this is what I think more and more people are beginning to realize, is that an honest ledger has intrinsic value, even if it's backed by nothing physical. Whereas a local currency like the dollar backed by the government has kind of negative intrinsic value, because they're going to cheat. they're cheating every day. They're printing trillions every month. So this is why the time for crypto right now in our world is right. Let me ask you this, in the interest of time, what about privacy? Because we love privacy features in coins. That's typically who we interview. And Dash, in our view here, I think Todd agrees with me, we wouldn't consider Dash to be a privacy coin. And CoinJoin is fine in a wallet, but that's not really an intrinsic privacy algorithm, or structure in the system. Has Dash ever thought about privacy, or is that just not the mission of the coin?
Yeah, well, Dash was born with privacy roots. That's why it was called Xcoin and Darkcoin. And there's a lot of libertarians and people that really, really put privacy at the forefront of their lives, at the core of Dash users and holders. So there's a big privacy component there. And since implementing CoinJoin, Dash has started to develop other innovations like the masternode network, the DAO. Recently, we're working on something called Evolution, and that has put the privacy discussions a little bit on the back burner. So while we continue to work and we continue to make sure that there's at least user-grade privacy in the network, that those elements like stealth addresses or the signature rings have not been implemented, or, to be honest, not even discussed at the privacy, at the network level. Maybe that's a discussion that we should talk about soon. Some people are wanting to bring it back and put it more at the front and center. I personally think that it's a human right to have privacy, and you need to figure out how you're going to balance that with the very strong view that regulators are taking over right now.
Yeah, very good point. Todd, your thoughts?
Yeah, my question right now is, what's next for Dash then? You're the head of, I believe, global head of business development. So you would know, what are you really focused on? What should we all expect coming to a theater near us?
Yeah, there's two paths of growth for Dash in the immediate future. Mm-hmm. Number one, we'll continue working on the payments issue. And that, sadly has not really taken off because not a lot of people are paying with crypto for several reasons. One of them, I would say, in the US is that, number one, it's a taxable event. So people are not so happy to have to, tell someone when they paid for an ice cream with crypto. And number two, it's still a bit with friction, and there's not too many, problems that you're solving. But we still work on that. We'll continue adding more platforms. We had this amazing partnership with an app called Dash Direct that allowed you to spend Dash in more than 150,000 locations in the US. Regrettably, because of the regulatory environment, they're slowing, and they're not going to be able to continue taking crypto. So we're losing that partnership, and we're figuring out how to bring something else. But that's one angle. We'll continue working.
Can we just stop on that real quick?
Yeah.
So what was the regulatory environment? like literally what stopped it?
Ooh, yeah,
Because
I
there's
mean,
that court decision on Ripple and XRP just happened that really
Yeah.
works in your favor. So things
Hmm.
might be
yeah.
changing.
Oh man, what can I say? There's like the way I, Ernesto Contreras, as a cryptocurrency user, sees this, and this is not the position of Dash. The way I see this is that there's like two fronts of the battle. There's the legal
Hmm.
battle and the things you see on the news, and the statements that politicians and regulators say, and then there's the actions that partners and the banking system are taking. So
Hmm.
yeah, there are some wins, but at the same time, what I think is happening is that a lot of banks are making it more difficult for wallets or for crypto cards and many of these solutions to operate. So some businesses, especially those businesses that operate in the US and have
Hmm.
multiple services, have had to like at least not continue accelerating their crypto products.
So is Dash now just kind of strategically, and I can understand why, just focusing anywhere but the US?
No, not really. Like I said,
Okay.
the Dash network is completely decentralized. There's a big base of users in the
Okay.
US. And the beauty of crypto, and I saw it in Venezuela, is that it's like water. You can't stop it. You hold it here,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
if you block it in one place, it's going to find another place to go.
Right.
So with this partner, they're not continuing their crypto venture for now, but we already found other partners that are willing to take over and continue serving
Now
this segment. So it's not going to be stopped.
you mentioned Ernesto that people, were not really keen to be able to use their crypto at point of sale because that would become a taxable event. Can you unpack that? Because I understand that it's taxable for the for the
For the
retailer,
merchant. Yeah,
or for
sure.
the
Yeah,
merchant, but how
yeah,
on earth, why would I, if I bought something from Mike, why would I have to report anything to anybody?
yeah. Well, I'm not a tax expert, so I'm repeating what some of our partners have said. And
Hmm.
what I understand, and again, I don't live in the US, so this is even so. What I understand is that when you sell crypto in the US, you have to compare that to when the moment that you bought it, and then that's either a profit or a loss. So when you're paying for crypto, in the view of many of the tax people that I've spoken to, that can be considered a sale. And therefore, let's say that you bought your Dash at, a few days ago at 33, and now it's at 38, then you would have to say, hey, I made $5 on this transaction, or vice versa. You bought at 1,000 and now you're selling at 33, so you can write that off as a loan. There are systems that help you to take care of this, but still there's the big doubt because there's not a lot of huge clarity on whether I'm paying for someone's ice cream. Is that an
Yeah.
actual sale? But
You know,
again, it all
Ernesto,
goes down.
our theme here at Decentralize.tv is building the infrastructure of human freedom, and that infrastructure you just commented on, that doesn't sound like it leads to human freedom. It's Mike Adams, are you familiar with privacy coins?
No, but
Why I
what
love them.
Ernesto just said, I believe that's the correct interpretation currently. But there needs to be a lot more clarity. I mean, I can only imagine millions of people scrambling to go through their whole history of like, what did I ever pay for this coin? Or maybe actually what I bought the ice cream with was coins that I bought at a higher price. So instead of the ones I bought at a lower price. I mean, can you imagine the complexity
Jeez.
of trying to
No,
comply? So there
no.
does need to be a lot more regulatory clarity. That's beyond the scope of this show. We are interviewing a crypto attorney coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But
Please ask
Mhm.
him this and
yeah,
tag me.
yeah, let's do that. I just want to
Yeah.
give, since we're going to wrap up this segment here with Ernesto, I want to give him an opportunity to just kind of summarize Dash for the audience and just kind of hit the highlights again and to wrap it up. And then Todd, you and I will have a reaction to this
Great.
interview, which has been really fascinating. But go ahead,
Yeah.
Ernesto, it's all yours.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. So I was going to finish with the other side of growth for Todd and the audience. Um, we're very close to releasing an upgrade to the Dash network called Dash Evolution. Evolution will allow to have all of these high efficiency features and allow you to ride on the blockchain. So one of the first examples that we are about to launch is names. So instead of sending money to my cryptographic address, you'll go into the Dash wallet. And if I secure the name Ernesto Contreras, then you'll Google that. Well, you'll look for that, and then you'll be able to send me money. So that's going to open up a bunch of ideas and things. And I see Mike kind of thinking of some of the options. So that is also something that's coming, and something that we just released. We released something called GrowthDB, which is a way, which is a cryptographic database that enables you to do secondary index query proofs. What this means in kind of my accent field English is that you'll be able to search a database and get a cryptographic proof with more than one variable. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to search how many people are born in Brazil and they had the flu in 2020. If you had that database, you would search for everyone that was Brazilian and get a cryptographic proof of that. Everyone that had the flu, get a cryptographic proof of that. And everyone that, you know, had it in this year and get a cryptographic proof. And that's going to allow you to do searches that are validated within more complex things. And that's part of all of evolution.
That sounds powerful. I didn't think anybody got the flu in 2020, but maybe that's just me.
It vanished.
Yes. But I mean, maybe that's a whole other debate. But you get the point. You're gonna be able.
We have a bonus whole episode for that, so
I can imagine.
Yeah, but I think what you're describing there, Ernesto, is that Dash is going to be much more than just a coin. It's going to have a computational infrastructure layer that will, I think, a lot of innovative developers will find very interesting things to do with that. And I don't know what, I mean, I'm very familiar with relational databases and indexing and so on, and SQL queries and things like that. I'm trying to think about the use cases for that. Not clear to me yet, but we're open to hearing about that more. I'm sure you have some interesting use cases in mind, but we're going to have to wrap this up here for now, for just in the interest of time. But Ernesto, I want to say thank you. This has been a really fascinating discussion. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure to talk to you guys. The conversation has been very interesting, and you know, thank you for giving us the opportunity to show that, you know, Dash has come from a history of payments and efficiency, and now we're getting ready to go into the next stage, which is going to bring those same features of efficiency and fast transactions into all of these opportunities of more complex operations that, you know, now you're going to be able to tag the blockchain and save some things there. Imagine what this can do to the logistics industry, where you're going to be able to save things and say, hey, this is from that batch from this year of this product.
Or elections. You could use it for elections.
Yep.
Voting, or supply chain tracking of food materials.
Yeah, with the efficiency of a second transactions and inexpensive. Wow. So we're ready to, you know, enter this new world of, I don't know if you want to call it Web3 or crypto or whatever, but it's just the future of finance.
Very cool.
Ernesto, is there anywhere online that people could study up more on that? I mean, because it sounds fascinating, and I was just looking at your website, and I'm just wondering if it's anywhere there or...
Yep, definitely. You can go to dash.org and go for the blog. And in the blog, you can look for GrowthDB. That's GROVEDB as in database. And, you know, I'll send you guys some links so you can post them. And this is still in the, you know, the research phase of what can be done, but GrowthDB is out already. And one of the first things, and we mentioned about growth, is I'm talking to some partners and kind of presenting to them. I feel like back when people invented the wheel, we're like, hey, we got this thing. What can we do together with it? So we're looking for all these builders and dreamers to try to build more things with us.
Very cool. Love it. All right.
You can stack wheels. Use them as big poker chips. I think that's the only utility for it.
Well,
That's just me.
that might be it.
All right. The website, folks, is dash.org. This is dash.org. And I think you can find the Dash coin on various exchanges and so on. All the swap sites I think support it, and many exchanges do as well. So we're gonna say thank you, Ernesto. It's been a pleasure, and now we're gonna talk a little bit behind your back, but we'll say nice things. So don't worry about it. It'll all be good. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. It's been an amazing conversation. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the invitation. And I hope that we can talk a lot more in new places.
Look forward to it. Yeah, you're definitely welcome back. So have a great day. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Todd.
All right.
Soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Join the official discussion channel for this show on Telegram at t.me/Decentralize TV, where you can ask questions or offer suggestions of who we should interview next. Also be sure to subscribe to the email newsletter on Decentralize.tv, where you'll be alerted about 1 day in advance of each new upcoming episode, before it gets published. On Decentralize.tv, you'll also find links to our video channels and social media channels across all platforms, including Brighteon, Rumble, BitChute, Twitter, Truth Social, and more. Check it all out at Decentralize.tv. Okay, let's take a look at the scorecard for Dash, strengths and weaknesses. The strengths are: it has very fast transfer of coins, just seconds. Very low transaction costs of just a fraction of a penny per transaction. Healthy daily volume of $61 million. It has a two-tiered distributed node system for security and speed of transactions. This makes it very useful for point-of-sale retail transactions. It also has an innovative DAO governance structure and is widely available through crypto exchanges. So it's relatively easy to convert Dash back into fiat if that's what you want to do. It also has a decentralized API. Weaknesses. Dash is not technically a privacy coin and is largely based on Bitcoin code with additional enhancements. Dash does not conceal transaction amounts or wallet IDs on the blockchain. This would make Dash easier for governments to confiscate or track compared to true privacy coins. There are also high barriers for point-of-sale retailers to upgrade their retail systems to accept any crypto, Dash or otherwise. Best use cases: high utility for local retail transactions such as farmers markets and retail stores where very rapid transaction time is necessary. Also, Dash is excellent for online retail where transaction certainty must be determined in mere seconds before shopping carts time out. All right, welcome back. And Todd, my co-host, joins me now to give you the reaction to that interview with Ernesto Contreras. And Todd, I don't know, I feel really positive. I mean, we learned a lot, and I love what he was describing. What's your take on it?
We learned a lot, but barely scratched the surface.
True, it's always the case.
Yeah, I would recommend for anybody just to go, go to YouTube and search for Ernesto Contreras, which I can't say it as well as you, but it's Contreras, and put Dash next to it, and he'll pop up. He's been a face for Dash for a long, long time. And if you're Dash curious, which I am now, very much so, please go watch some of those videos, because he takes a lot deeper dive into it. What appealed to you, Mike?
Well, so I'm all about use cases, and I think that the real world use with a rapid transaction system, I think that it really shows that Dash has practical application in the real world.
Yes.
And the name fits. Dash implies that something is fast. And this is blazing fast. I didn't know it was even that fast.
Yeah.
But that's pretty amazing with the master nodes and how they're rotated in order to be, let's say,
Right.
51% attack resistant, things like that. So I love what I learned about Dash as well. The only thing that it lacks that I know you and I both agree on is, privacy, right? So we both love privacy, but not everything has to be privacy, right? So in terms of Dash versus Bitcoin, in neither one of them we would consider private, but in terms of point of sale transactions, Bitcoin is just too slow, too expensive, too cumbersome. Bitcoin's never really going to work to go out and buy a coffee, really. I mean, not on a large scale.
But then you have Litecoin, right? So there are some alternatives out there to Dash that have been in the market forever and are accepted as well. So I would really encourage them to go down the path of privacy, resurrect it. It's been part of their DNA. True. Resurrect it and see if there's anything that you could do. Because, man, what I didn't like hearing, and I think he's probably right, but in the US, I can only imagine. I mean, can you imagine literally paying for coffee and then having to report on it that, you bought that Dash for 30 cents and you bought the coffee at 40 cents. And so you have a capital gain there. Nobody's ever going to do that. Nobody can track that. I mean, but I think it's a good fear. I think it's a good fear tactic to keep crypto out of point of sale.
Well, it's a creepy fear tactic. That's for sure. But
yes,
hence why a lot of people prefer privacy coins because it's very difficult, obviously, for any third party or bad actor to track, how much you have or what you're doing with it, right?
Right.
Whereas the more transparent coins, like Bitcoin and like Dash, can obviously leave behind those telltale signs. But I love the fact that he was talking about in Venezuela. In Venezuela, the number one concern for people at certain periods of time was just, hey, we just need a monetary system that works and doesn't lose half its value every week, right?
Right.
So privacy was not the number one concern in that situation. It was more like, how do I buy food in a reliable manner and feed my family?
Yeah, fast, low cost, scalable. Those were the key driving factors there.
Exactly. And I would imagine that Dash's price was a lot more stable than, of course, the local currency, in terms of its purchasing power. So depending on what's happening with your local currency, it shows the relatively higher intrinsic value of a cryptocurrency, even if it has some built-in volatility. And I think this equation in the US, as the money printing gets even more insane, I think it's a natural that more and more people are going to migrate into crypto. I really do.
Yeah, I think they have to. You know why? Because of this show, Mike.
Well, yeah, this show. And also, did you see Robert Kiyosaki? He's the Rich Dad, Poor Dad author.
Yeah.
And, it's so funny. He and I are saying almost the same thing now. I saw that he was talking about the BRICS nations meeting in August and the de-dollarization. And he said everybody should buy gold and silver and Bitcoin. And that's almost the same thing that I say. You've heard my podcast. I say gold and silver and crypto. But what I mean is more privacy crypto, by the way, typically. Right. But Kiyosaki's like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. So cool. We're kind of on the same page. But the bottom line is it's not going to be the dollar or think about Venezuelan currencies or European currencies or the yen right now in Japan,
Well, if it were the dollar and you, instead of saying that you recommend gold, silver, and crypto, and instead you said, I recommend fiat, you'd have to write a book that's called Rich Mike, Poor Mike.
Right, exactly. Yeah. If you hold fiat, you're going to hold it. I mean, you're just going to keep losing value to the very end.
Yes.
And it's going to be worthless at some point. And how many times has this happened throughout history? The history of governments and nations and money. It's just
total step and repeat.
It is.
The other thing about Dash that about all of crypto, and I mean, we can see it when we actually take a look at these coins when they launch and what their life was like. And man, at one point in time, they were $4.3 billion market cap. And today they are 380 million. Now, 380 million is
Still
still
pretty good.
pretty darn impressive
Yeah.
for me. There's a lot more liquidity there than there is in a lot of the privacy coins, for sure.
Right.
Right. But isn't that just kind of mind-boggling how something can just massively gain that kind of market value up over $4 billion, and then boom, poof, gone.
Well,
it was like, poof.
There are macroeconomic factors here that I think we got to bring into play. So when interest rates were kept close to zero by the Federal Reserve for so many years, that created a money amplification effect. And it caused, of course, inflation, or I should say, asset appreciation in housing, in the stock market, but also in crypto. So a lot of the money was flooding out, the easy money, the almost free money was flooding out of the traditional finance system into crypto. And then when the Fed began really aggressively raising interest rates, kind of pulling a switcheroo on the world, and we had the FTX collapse kick in. Sure. Then there was this massive contraction of money. We're already seeing housing corrections. We're seeing, corrections in commercial real estate, huge corrections there. We're seeing bank failures and crypto contraction. So we have to understand that there is, in fact, there is a two-way path between traditional finance and crypto, and that they do affect each other. So the Fed's policies will affect crypto. And that's kind of scary to me because I don't like the Fed and its policies. I would rather crypto not have a bridge into fiat currency, but the stable coins make that happen, like Tether, for example. So there you go.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think you need it. You need those stable coins in the ecosystem. And currently, you need the on-ramps to be able to get your fiat into the system.
It's true. It's true. But one of my big concerns has always been if you're the Treasury and you want to clobber Bitcoin, let's say, you would just print money because you can print money. It costs you nothing to print more money as the Federal Reserve or the Treasury. And then you just buy up. You become a big Bitcoin whale, majority holder, and then you just crash it whenever you want to discredit Bitcoin. Right?
A lot of,
Because if you can print trillions of dollars and then you can just use that to buy Tether and then use Tether to buy Bitcoin, then there's your mechanism.
So 32 trillion now. I know that they don't call you Microdamus, but where do you think that can go?
Oh man. I'm convinced they're going to print money until the end. It's going to be a big hyperinflation blowout.
Yeah.
There's no question.
So then when that happens, people can say they watched this show and they got a story told to them about Venezuela and what's going to happen. I didn't get to ask him the question I wanted to. I kind of forgot. I'm sorry. But I was really interested on a human level, when that all started to happen. And obviously, wages didn't match the hyperinflation. It's like, what did people do? Now, he said like 7 million fled, and I get that. But those who didn't, it's just like, my mind just goes to what can I do today, right now, where if this ever happens in the future, I at least have a little bit of runway. And we talk about this, the food forest, I think.
Yeah, food forest is a huge part of it.
We're both very prepper minded. So we have taken, but people need to wake up to the fact that Venezuela can happen here. Yes?
Well, yes, it can happen. I would say observers would point out that, of course, the US dollar has a much larger M2 money supply globally. And of course, the world's largest debt market as well compared to Venezuela's currency. So it may not happen as rapidly or as severely, but it can certainly happen. And I think from what I understand, that life in Venezuela, for those who were not fortunate enough to have hard money assets, if you had gold or silver, you were in great shape. Or if you had Bitcoin, you were in great shape relative to everybody else. But those who didn't, think about waiting 8 hours in line in order to buy your daily allotment of rice and a chicken leg or something, because that's what the government says. Or think about the fact that you're a bread shop. You make bread, all right? That's your living. And then the government comes along and says you can only sell a loaf of bread for this certain controlled amount. But if you sell that bread, you're going to go out of business because it doesn't cover the cost of the wheat that you have to buy. So what do? You start creating pastries, and you sell the pastries so that you don't go broke. And then the government outlaws the pastries, and then they come arrest you for not selling enough bread and trying to make money on pastries. Like that happened in Venezuela.
Wow.
Yeah. So any kind of economic insanity combined with government authoritarianism can also happen in the United States. I mean, you're seeing sort of examples of this with the attempted crackdown on crypto, which is in many ways failing, by the way, but they don't want any monetary system that competes with their monopoly, clearly.
No, of course not. The Druid Babylonian bastards are not going to go down easy, Mike.
No, but what I love about crypto is that they can't stop it. They can declare it to be illegal.
Right.
That doesn't stop the nodes from running all over the world. So, I mean, you can say it's something. We call it like crypto transgenderism. It's like you can say it's a man, but it's still a woman or whatever. The nodes are still running. You can say it's illegal. Doesn't stop Bitcoin.
My private crypto self-identifies as gone.
Right.
They said it was illegal, so it's just gone.
Yeah, or as in the firearms industry, boating accident. Like, where are all your rifles? Accident. Boating accident. Yeah,
boating accident.
There must be a million guns at the bottom of the lakes in Texas or something. I don't know. But bottom line is, just in the interest of time here,
yes.
I really like what I learned about Dash. Okay.
Yep.
And I think Dash shows that specialization of your coin, focusing on point of sale, rapid transactions, gives it utility above and beyond any other coin that I've seen.
And there are point of sale all around the world that don't, not just the United States, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
So, and thus their focus, right?
Well, exactly. And also, I was going to mention Monero. So, Monero has great privacy, right? Number one privacy coin. But you and I both have experienced that syncing the Monero blockchain is a very painstaking and long process, and its transaction speed, it's faster than Bitcoin, but it's not blazing fast. It's not as fast as, let's say, Dash typically. So this, I don't know what you call this second layer they have. It's kind of like a lightning network on Dash, the second layer of the masternodes, whatever they call it. But it's a very clever thing, and it gives Dash utility at the point of sale that I don't know that anybody else has really achieved that, privacy or otherwise.
You know what boggled my mind was hearing that they're on like 237 exchanges. I may have that number wrong, but a lot of exchanges. And man, I just know from covering crypto the last 2.5, 3 years, is it costs money to get on those exchanges.
It does.
And it takes a lot of development time. And so kudos to them to doing however they managed to make that happen. I don't know. But to me, that's just a colossal feat.
Yeah, clearly that's the other measure of these projects is whether they have a well-organized advocacy group, outreach group. Right. And are they effective? And Dash is.
I think that's their DGBB, what is it? Decentralized Governance by Blockchain. That's
what he called it.
Submit proposals. You can submit proposals, and if the master nodes end up voting for it and liking it, you get it funded, which is pretty cool because in a decentralized community crypto, you got to get the money from somewhere. You don't go to the bank.
That's true. That's true. Oh, also, we need to say, we need to have disclaimers here. Now, we always tell the audience whether we hold the coins of the project we're talking about. And also, we don't charge anybody to be a guest on our show. So, nobody paid money from Dash to be on our show. I do not hold any Dash, and that's kind of my fault. I normally do hold the coins and play with the wallets and everything before we do an interview. So this is my oversight. I should have used the wallet. I didn't fit it into my schedule. So I don't own any Dash. I probably will, though. I probably will acquire some. I want to check out their wallets. I want to check out the transaction speeds. So that's my plan. I'll probably buy some amount of Dash moving forward. What's your disclaimer? Do you hold any Dash?
Yeah, I do not hold any Dash, and I'm with you that I probably will. I likely will.
Yeah.
I mean, just because of Ernesto. I mean, he impressed me. And again, not only on our interview, but on all of the other interviews that I've been consuming, just prepping for this. He's a super likable guy.
Yeah, he is.
Isn't he?
He's a good guy. No, I love his attitude. You know, that's the other really cool thing about what we do here on this show.
Yeah.
Think about how many amazing people that we've met who are from all over the world, you know?
Right.
Like our friend Ruben in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And we have another project leader we interviewed out of Israel. And then Ernesto here. Yeah?
And that introvert over in Orlando, Jim Gale.
Yeah, the introvert, right? That's funny. But, you know, we're going to be talking to people all over the world on this show. And you know, cryptocurrency, it has a global perspective, and it is borderless. You know, you could send Dash to somebody in Venezuela or in Russia or China or Singapore or wherever. And that's one of the utility factors of all these coins is they are all borderless, which of course drives the governments insane trying to stop it. Like, no, we have to control your transactions. But yeah, I think I'm going to keep my eye on Dash.
Yeah.
And especially as a retailer myself, you know, I'm wondering if Dash is something that we should consider accepting.
Well, you know, they said they're integrated into Change Now, right?
They did say that, yeah.
And the cool thing about Change Now, I really love those folks.
Yeah.
You can accept as a merchant, you know, any of the cryptos, and on the back end have an immediate conversion. If you wanted it all converted to Monero, you could. If you wanted it all converted to the green, you could, you know.
What coin is that? Is that a new Elon Musk coin? What is that?
The green
blob.
The fiat, the green fiat.
Well, yeah, I know we're looking at the Change Now tools. My devs are working on, you know, accepting various coins. Yeah. In fact, they're talking with, well, I don't want to give out anybody's names without permission, but they're talking to some good people that you know about some integration. So we'll just leave it at that. But we do need to wrap up this segment for today. Our sponsor for today is the satellite phone store, sat123.com, which gives you backup communications. It works anywhere in the world, including Venezuela, by the way. You can do two-way satellite text messaging with these Bivy sticks, or you can get these Inmarsat phones that use the Inmarsat network, obviously. I'm sorry, these are Iridium phones here. The Inmarsat down below, these are out of stock. So correction there. These are the Iridium phones. And again, they work anywhere in the world, including oceans and deserts and so on, anywhere on planet Earth, as long as you can see the sky, right? So there you go. SAT123.com. Yeah, it's not going to work in the bottom of a cave or you know, a sinkhole.
A bonus hole.
Or a bonus hole. It's not going to work down in the bottom of a bonus hole. You got to be able to see the sky. Otherwise, you got no comms.
All I have to say is we did it. We got bonus hole in this episode too.
It's an inside joke. Yep, we're gonna fit that into every episode somehow. But don't freak out the guests with that. The guests may not know what that refers to, so.
We'll wait till our one-on-ones.
We got to wait till after the guest leaves. We don't want somebody to hang up on us. It's like, what are you talking about? Click. It's like, and to think I agreed to come on your show, you know, and then they're gone. That could happen. Who knows? But that would be the funniest interview ever. That'd probably make their coin very popular.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, Todd, another great show. We got a break here because we have another interview coming up, but thank you for your time. It's been fun.
Oh, this always is. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Cheers. Yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm Mike Adams here. Decentralize.tv is the website. And I'm the founder also of Brighteon.com, the free speech video platform. And thank you for watching today. Feel free to repost this interview on other platforms and other sites as well. And you can take out all the bonus hole sections if you want. It's okay. You can do a little cleanup editing. That's fine. Thanks for watching. Take care.